Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Break Thru U podcast. My name is Josh Rosales. I'm your host, and we have a very special guest with us. We have Carlos. Now, this isn't just any ordinary person. Carlos has an amazing story in regards to all things mindset, breaking through mindset and reaching that American dream, if you want to call it, making something out of nothing by just sheer grit and determination, consistency, having the right people around him, mentorship, all that plays into this. And I'm honored and privileged that Carlos was able to make some time. Carlos is very, very busy, an entrepreneur in the real estate industry, and it's incredible. And what I want to do is hear his story. I want him to challenge us. I want him to inspire us. I want Carlos to empower those that are watching and listening that you can do anything that you want to do, go anywhere you want to go, be anything you want to be, but it's on the other side of hard work. And so, Carlos, without any further ado, thank you so much and welcome to the Break Thru U podcast.
Hey, Josh. Well, thanks for having me, man. It's really amazing being here. Definitely, been following you for a while now. When you interviewed people in the fitness industry, in the real estate industry, I see that you've also been interviewing a few agents, investors, one of my mentors actually. So it's definitely an honor for me to be here. Appreciate this, giving me a space here in your podcast, and, it's honored to be considered among the, people with mindset, which is, one of the things that I have been trying to work on for a while now. Yes, for sure.
Definitely. Well, tell our listeners and those that are going to be watching who you are, and tell us about your story and how you got to where you are today. And because it's amazing transformation journey that anybody can walk this journey. It's just a lot of times people quit because it is hard. It's a lot of hard work.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, oh wow, man, how can I start? Well, I was born and raised in Nicaragua. For those who have no idea where Nicaragua is, that's in Central America, right next to Costa Rica. So yeah, I was born and raised there, and so I had a pretty standard life, had a pretty normal life. I studied law. Believe it or not, even though I may not look like it, but I'm deep down somewhere in there's still a lawyer. So yeah, I actually have a law degree. I used to be a lawyer back in Nicaragua. And at the same time, while studying law, I was also serving as, many different things, like I started as a fireman, then moved into paramedic, and eventually turned into a combat medic. So yeah, I had a pretty standard life, pretty usual. I was actually working at my family's law firm, which is, somewhat big in Nicaragua. So, I was definitely in my comfort zone, for sure. And then in 2018, there was crisis that came into the country that really changed everything for me. It changed absolutely the entire way, my entire life, the entire way that I saw life. So, there was a social crisis in which basically it was the government against the people who went up against the government, and it just got real violent real quick, right? And I was actually a part of the government where, the institution that I was a paramedic and a combat medic for was actually from the government. So, I was kind of like in a turn situation, because I was definitely taking the people's side, because I did not believe in, what my government was doing. So, I kind of had to join the fight. And I think that the last time that we spoke, I didn't really mention this, but and some of the people who actually know me from back then, I had a few businesses. I actually, I was working at my law firm, my family's law firm. I also had a bar. It was called 911. It was a bar. It was like we had discounts for like police and military and everything. And I was also kind of like starting a music studio because I was a little bit of a aficionado at the music industry, played a little bit of drums. So when the social crisis came in, well, obviously my bar went into bankruptcy. I ended up with thousands of dollars in debt because of the investment that I had made. Well, my family law firm took a big hit, whatever, and we lost some clients that were fleeing the country. Also because there wasn't a good climate for investment, and so everything was starting, to change. And I was like, okay, so what do I do now, right? This is a decisive moment in my life. What do I want to do? So, against my mother's advice, I went and joined the fight. I left everything behind, my job, absolutely everything. I didn't care. My business, they're already bankrupt and whatever. So I was like, hey, you know what, man? Whatever, right? This is the time. So I dived, really into it as a combat medic in combat places. And, it was just crazy. I mean, imagine downtown Nashville with barricades in every corner and bombs being thrown, bullets flying everywhere, snipers on the rooftops, and people from Nicaragua. I mean, they're not gonna let me lie. It was crazy, man. So that my job was pretty much go into that hell, pick up the wounded, get them out of that hell, and try my best to save them. You know what I mean? So it was definitely a life-changing event, I would say, and it got so tough, so to speak, and it got so big that actually my family, my personal family, was starting to get into trouble with the government, prosecution and all of that. So I ended up having to leave the country, well, for my own sake and also for my family's sake. I was like, hey, you know what? I think this is getting to the point where it's not just right in the combat zone, but also, going to your houses, into whatever, right in your backyard. So I had to leave. I had to leave my country and basically start from scratch. So initially I went to Germany for a few months while I kind of like, regroup and regather my ideas. But I said, okay, so what am I going to do now, right? And then actually somebody offered me a job in Mexico. And I was like, okay, as a lawyer. I was like, right on, great, right? So I go to Mexico, Guadalajara, and then I start an internship in the Supreme Court of Justice. I was like, okay, speaking up finally, right? Okay, it ain't that bad. And then they told me, hey, listen, man, it's all good having you here and all of that, but we cannot validate your law degree here because it's from another country. And, that's the only career in the world that you cannot validate. You actually need to restudy that all over again. If you were an architect or engineer, doctor, whatever, it's the same medicine all over the world, it's the same buildings, same art, like whatever, right? I mean, but not the laws. That's completely different. So I was like, do I need to study all over again? What am I gonna do to feed myself? So I started picking up, different jobs. I was working as a driver, driving people around here and there, or gardening, a little bit of that. I even did some babysitting, which, it's not really my forte. But hell, if it pays the bills, I mean, it was crazy. There I was, driving a bunch of kids into McDonald's. I was like, what do you want to eat? I'm not hungry. Okay, then don't ask me for food later. Yeah, I got fired from that job real quick. I wasn't a good
That's funny.
Yes, I did a little bit of everything, man. And then, all right, so I moved to another town, and then I found a job as a teacher. So I started teaching English and German. So, I speak English and German as well. So, okay, great, right? So I actually had three jobs. In the mornings, I was teaching German. Then in the afternoon, I was teaching English at the university. And then in the evenings, I was also private tutoring English at a local institute. So I was busting my butt off, working for like $2, $3 an hour, something like that. But hey,
So really quick. So you know how to speak German?
Yes. Ja, ich spreche Deutsch.
Wow. Wow.
Ja, ich spreche Deutsch. Ich habe in Hamburg für 3 oder 4 Monate gewohnt. I did actually study at a German school when I was a kid. And then, I picked it up when I was in Germany. So, it was kind of good. And then Actually, when I was teaching German, it was a small town. I was the only person in the town who spoke German. So nobody really knew if I was speaking it correctly or not. But I had to pick it out real quick. So, okay, all right, I was busting my butt off. And then I was like, okay, good. I'm making minimum wage, but hey, you know what? At least I'm paying the bills. It's Mexico, it's cheap, right? So, all right, okay, good. At that moment, I was like, hey, man, this is, what's going on? But I always had that little thing in my mind telling me, you're meant for bigger things. And no disrespect, a lot of love and respect for everybody in the teaching industry. It's just perhaps not my thing. And I have mad respect for teachers. Don't take me wrong. In any other, profession that I just said, it just wasn't my thing, right? In the back of my mind, I was like, hey man, did I study all that much? Like for this? This is really what I want to do with my life. And then, okay, right. So one day it was raining and I was late for class. And I was like, sprinting a little bit, trying to get a class. And it was just slippery because it was raining. And then I slipped. I fell and broke my back. And I was like, okay, so 7 years of active duty, or over 450 missions combined, like fire missions, rescue missions, medical, whatever, over 450 missions combined, and I never broke anything in that regard, right? I was like literally dodging bullets and bombs and whatever in 2018, nothing happened. Then in 2019, I slipped on my way to teach English and I break my back in two pieces. So there I go, right? And funny is I didn't have any insurance, any social security, no nothing, man. Because I actually applied as a refugee in Mexico because since my title, my law degree couldn't be validated, then I didn't have a worker's visa, so I actually had to apply as a refugee. So there was, my as a refugee status, I couldn't even open up bank accounts, no social security, no nothing, laying in my bed without being able to move, that broke, not a single dime in my pocket, calling my mom, asking her for money, hey, can you lend me some money? Can you give me like whatever, right? And they even had to vet me and help me go to the bathroom. And I have always been pretty active and I have always been, a little bit of a hard-headed person. Some would say strong convictions. My wife would probably said stubborn as a mule. It's different situations, right? Depends on who you ask. Depends on who you ask. But I'm definitely a little bit of a hard-headed person. So to me, having somebody walk me through the bathroom because I couldn't really stand on my own, it was crazy, man. It was like I was at the lowest point of my life, couldn't move out of my bed, broke, not a single cent. Um, like no social security, no nothing. I was like, basically disability, and I was having, nightmares of PTSD. Every night, man, it was crazy. I was having these nightmares and post traumatic stress disorder, like severe PTSD, waking up in the middle of the night, crying, screaming, whatever, and many points, many times, in many points in my life during that time frame, I was like, hey man, I'm done with this. This is BS. Like why? You know what I mean? I had a pretty good life 1 year ago in 2018. I was actually flying all over Central America and Cuba, like giving out conferences from labor law and whatever. And 1 year after, I'm on a bed, not being able to move, broke, and I was like, this is not for me, man. Like I can't deal with this. This is just unfair, right? But then, I've always kind of been the fact, and I always think like, hey, you know what? Somebody's works, right? So I had a bunch of my friends as well who were also refugees and exiled to different countries, and they were also having a hard time. So I was like, hey man, quit whining, quit crying. Somebody out there is worse than you are. So and that's pretty much my mentality. Hey man, hustle up, get to work, whatever. But sometimes you do have those weak moments, and I was drinking a lot as well. Um, I couldn't get up to eat or to go to the bathroom, but I sure as hell could get up to drink. So yeah, I mean, that was my life. And I was like, and then at some point somebody tells me, hey, listen, man, you speak English, you worked at some point when I was like in high school at call centers, interested in working at a call center. And I was like, yeah, sure. $3 an hour, $3 an hour, but you can do it from your bed. And I was like, okay, sure. No problem. Let's do it, right? So I started doing that, man, banging 600 calls per day, working 40, 50 hours per week for $3 an hour. That's what, like 150, something like that, dollars per week. I mean, I could barely afford food and rent and whatever. I mean, I was making definitely, minimum wage, less than minimum wage in some countries. And, just flat on my bed, working all day, whatever, just calling. And I started doing everything, man. I started selling auto parts, softwares for trucks, insurance, anything. I started kind of like freelancing, right? And then
Yeah.
somebody says, hey, listen, man, I have a little bit of a higher paid job. It's $5 an hour. Okay, all right. And it's calling for real estate. Like, okay, all you need to do is just call homeowners and ask them if they're interested in selling their house. If they are, ask them a few questions and send them my way. If they're not, then no problem. Just say no, goodbye. I was like, okay, that's an easy gig, right? So I started doing that, and at first I kind of sucked at it, man. I actually got fired from a few jobs in there, and they told
Wow.
me it wasn't for me. Then they were like, hey, listen, man, I think this is not for you. I think sales might not be for you. And I actually remember this, a few guys, one actually in Tennessee, and then the other one actually in Virginia. They were like, this might not be the best fit for you, man. You might be better suited for like an admin kind of work. Maybe sales is not your thing. And I was like, hey, man, F that. I'm going to go ahead and keep doing this because it seemed interesting. And I was like, it was interesting. And then one of the people that I was vouching for, we kind of grew a little bit close, and I asked him, hey, listen, man, how do you do this? How do you do this? And he's like, well, I live in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. I was like, really? You can do this from Mexico? Yeah. As long as you have an American LLC, you can do it. Okay. Well, you know what? I actually have a business visa. So I was like, I can open up accounts, right? I can travel and do that. It was like, yeah, man, all you need to do is an American LLC and start doing this. You can do it from anywhere in the world. And basically he started, explaining a little bit how it was. And, that just kind of left it in me. Then I tried with a few other people closing deals, but I was definitely not good. And this is where the importance of a mentor comes in. Then I find, the person that is my mentor in real estate. So his name is Nick Ferrantino. So I find him and he's like, hey man, you know what? I'll teach you. I'll show you how to do
So how
this.
did you find him?
He actually found me, and it's there's a few platforms out there for like freelancers where you can look for people and you can also look for work. So he actually found me, and it's funny. One of the companies that I was fired from in 2019 because I was bad at it was actually Low Key Investments, and it wasn't really Nick who fired me. Nick, it was one of his assistants. I never knew Nick, but I received one payment via PayPal. And PayPal said you just received a payment from Nick Ferrantino from Low Key Investments. And I was like, whatever, okay, right? Okay, fast forward, then he finds me. He's like, hey man, I'm looking for somebody to assist me as a virtual assistant. Can you help me out? It's real estate, okay? Great, all right, no problem. Let's do that. So we started working together, we grew close and we started, doing this and doing that. He taught me how to close deals. He taught me how to talk on the phone. And then on the first payment that I received from him, it was like, you just got another payment. And it didn't seem as a new client. It was a recurring client. I was like, what? And then I saw that I had it from a few years back, a payment from him. I was like, hey man, you know what? I was actually fired from your company once. And he was like, wow, that's crazy. Yeah. Nah. So it's funny. So we start going at it and
So was this when you were still in Nicaragua and Nick was here in the US, or?
no, I was in Mexico at this point. I had already flew Mexico. I didn't really do anything like this up until where I came to Mexico. Everything that I'm telling you was in Mexico. Like the whole teaching, the Breaking the Bad, driver, babysitting,
Okay.
everything was in Mexico, which I
And
didn't.
Nick was
It was
here in
also
the
fun.
U.S. and you were in Mexico, right?
Yeah, I was in Mexico. Then when I started closing my first deals with Nick, it's when I figured out that, hey, you know what? I actually there's something going on here, right? So I was in Mexico, and then the first deal that we closed was actually one in Nashville, and it was $27,000. And I was like, the first deal that I assisted, it was like $27,000. I was like, holy cow. Okay, all right. Um, Now you got my attention, right? And this is interesting. This is what I want to do. And then, we closed in another one. I think it was in Rossville. We bought it for 12,000, and we sold this in a week for 20,000. So we made 8,000 in a week. That's like $8,000 in a week, right? And then the other one was like $27,000 a month. So from like September up until February, so from September 2020 up until like February 2021, we made around $80,000 worth of deals. Obviously, that wasn't all mine, but it was like, wow, I had a percentage of it, so I got a healthy commission out of it. And that's where I thought, okay, you know what? Now I want to get into this. So then I flew to Miami. I was like, Nick was actually living in Florida. So I fly to Miami, then Nick picks me up and he flies me on a private plane to Melbourne. And we're like, damn, that's where I'm paying. What, man, this is what I want to do, right? So this is the
You were
first
on a
time.
private plane.
Yeah, Nick's a pilot. So we rented out a plane and whatever. And, that's where he started telling me, hey, listen, man, during that ride in the private plane, man, like open up your company, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, right? So he was my mentor. I was like, okay, all right, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So I opened up my company in Florida, Pineda Investments, right? And then that's pretty much kind of where it started. We started partnering up. That's kind of where I started the whole real estate business. Obviously, he has been helping me around. He has been, assisting me, being a mentor, because I had no idea what I was doing at first, absolutely no idea. But then, and he was pretty cool about it because he was also letting me work with him and keep him offer while I was building my company, Pineda Investments. So he was really cool about it. He taught me everything I know in real estate, and yeah, and actually. Then we started REI Forces. REI Forces, that's the thing that kind of grew into Pineda Investments, and we still had a lot of investors asking me to go ahead and work for them and whatever and this, and I just found out that there was a lot of investors, real estate investors that had that need for personnel, for dispositions, services. So basically what I have going on right now is Pineda Investments, which is a real estate investment company. We buy and hold properties, we buy and wholesale properties. We partner up with different investors to get into, raise capital and to get into buying properties, whatever. And then I have REI Forces, which is a service company, an outsourcing company for real estate investors, which is basically I will handle your sales operation, whatever you need. If you want to do any sort of marketing, cold calling, text marketing, social media, if you have already a deal or contract and you cannot sell it, we'll help you sell it. If you need somebody to train your team and how to get deals over the phone, if you do this and this and that. So, that's REI Forces right there. It's an outsourcing company for investors, by investors. And then Pineda Investments is a real estate investment company. That's pretty much what we do. Now, with Key Home Offer is slowly growing into the next natural succession, which is multifamily and commercial properties. So right now, we're kind of, I wouldn't say parting ways, but we're just like, going into different stages of real estate. But we are still partnering with making some deals that, I get the deals, he sells them, raise capital, whatever. So that's pretty much what I got going on company wise.
So talking about yourself and what just everything that you have gone through, where are you at right now? How many companies do you have in the U.S. and in Mexico? And how do you keep yourself like, what is your why? Every day somebody wakes up and they go to work and they really hustle and grind because they have something to do it for. When it comes to your why, what is that for you?
Oof, that's a great question, man. Because I think that my why has changed or evolved over the over time. So to answer your first question, so I am registered in Mexico as a business person, and I've done a few deals here and there in Mexico. I'm actually starting here in Mexico a mentorship program. I actually have two mentors right now that I'm helping building their business and scaling their business. They just pay me a flat fee every month. I am a partner and I have some shares in the company in Nicaragua that we have. So I am a shareholder in that company. And then I have my company here, in Florida, which is, well, I have two companies. One is REI Forces and the other one is Pineda Investments. So if, let's say currently that, so I got this business going on in Mexico. I'm a shareholder, kind of like a passive income from Nicaragua, and then in the States, which I'm still
So this tells me that you can have passive income, and it doesn't have to be just within the United States. You can have passive income outside of the United States, and even in different countries.
Hey man, I kind of lost you there for a second.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you repeat that question? So basically, I have three businesses in three countries right now: Nicaragua, Mexico, and the U.S.
So it just goes to show that you can have passive income in different countries. You don't have to be in the United States.
Oh no, I mean I travel back and forth to the United States a lot, but because I think that right now in the stage that I'm in, I need to have boots on the ground. So I usually travel anywhere between 5 to 6 times per year, and I stay a few days depending on what I need to do. But for sure, I mean we have sold properties to people from Kuwait, Asia. Like we got one time this guy, he didn't use no lending; it was straight up cash. We've sold properties to people from all over the world that they've been buying properties. So yeah, and I think that one of the benefits of the pandemic, if we can just say like that, that it has benefits, is that it has opened up the space for doing a lot of global businesses. So yeah, I moved between Mexico and Florida, but I have businesses here in Mexico and Florida and Nicaragua. So yeah, you can definitely, as long as you build good systems, good processes, and you know what you're doing, you can definitely do that, which is kind of what I'm trying to do right now. I'm still growing these businesses. They're not how I want them to be yet. I'm still, working in the businesses right now, almost full time. But at some point, I would kind of like to, step out of them a little bit and let them handle themselves. And that's kind of the why. The why would be because I want to achieve financial independence, financial freedom. And you cannot achieve financial freedom with a 9-to-5 job. You honestly just can't. And even those people who have amazing paying jobs, they invest on the side and they have multiple properties and they have multiple investments and they're silent investors. So I do think that entrepreneurship is great, but then you gotta evolve into a businessman. And that's pretty much what I want to do. Right now, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm dedicating my time to my businesses, but eventually I want to grow into an investor and a businessman and just automate the businesses in which they can operate on their own. And that's kind of what I want to do. And then just have that financial freedom, have hard assets that can produce cash flow.
So when it comes to being an entrepreneur and a business owner, or just an individual, how important is it to have the right people in place around you? People that are positive, people that are going to help challenge you and help you grow.
Oh yeah, one of the things that I believe that you need to do in business is hire the right people. I I have had my share of people that I have hired, going back and forth, but I do pride myself in having a good eye uh, for hiring. Actually, Oscar is here. He's, my operations manager in pretty much in everything in Argyle Forces and Pineda Investments. He helps me a lot. He's my right hand man, and he's way smarter than me. He just doesn't know it yet. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's one of the most important things that you need to do when you're hiring. You need to hire people that can add value to you. But mostly, I hire people that have the mindset. So when I first met Oscar, he didn't really know nothing about real estate, but he had that mindset, right? And I started teaching him about real estate. And right now, I'm really proud of him and what he's accomplished in the real estate world. And yes, and I believe, and me personally, I always like to surround myself with smarter people than me. I need to be the dumbest person in the room. If I am the most intelligent person in the room, then I need to find a new room, right? I need to surround myself with people that are way smarter than me. And I mean, like, oh man, you know what? I need to step out my game. You know what I mean? You are the reflection. And I don't know who said this. This is mine. I think, I don't know, probably read it in a cookie somewhere. But you are the reflection of the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most. You're muted, I think.
That is so true. The other question that I have too is, well, oftentimes we have to self-develop, and that can come in multiple different ways. What does self-development look like to you, Carlos? Is it a
Well,
podcast? Is it a book? Is it a YouTube? Is it um, how do you
all
pour
of
into
it.
yourself?
I mean, right now, and we are so blessed in this current time that we just have information available to us 24/7. But then again, we have so much information available to us 24/7 that we need to, we need to filter it out. We really need to, pay attention to what we're doing. It's like in my personally self-development for me, you really need to figure out what you want to do in life, what you want to be. So in my case, I figure out, hey, you know what? I'm going to make real estate my career. This is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to be the best in real estate. So I started listening. I am big on podcasts. Usually I listen to podcasts on Spotify. I am huge on YouTube. I see and follow a
So
lot of people on
what
YouTube.
are some of what's your favorite podcast, favorite YouTube channel?
Oh, well, my favorite podcast is Spotify. It's called Motivational Quotes by Jocko Willink. Jocko Willink is a Navy SEAL. So, that's also, the mindset that I try to apply for everything. He has an amazing mindset. So I kind of use that for mindset, right? So sometimes when I wake up and I'm taking a shower, brushing my teeth, I'm usually listening to it. When I hit the gym and I'm doing cardio, sometimes I listen to that part because it's just motivation and being like, kind of like tips that work for your entire life. And then as far as real estate alone, oh man, I follow a bunch of people and I mainly watch YouTube channels. I think that the first one that I watched, which got me into real estate or at least into learning, was Brent Daniels. I think that, well, Nate Barger, I do follow him on Facebook a lot. He's kind of one, people on the Bird method. He teaches people how to, you know, create and buy properties. And then this there's one called Flipping Mastery, which is also amazing. So if you guys are wanting to start into real estate, I would definitely recommend these channels. They have videos from the get-go, the basics of real estate, how to talk to people initially, up until how to buy multi-million-dollar company, I'm sorry, apartment buildings with zero money down, how to raise capital, how to do this, how to underwrite deals, how to do seller financing, creative financing, pretty much all of that. So they are really complete channels. They're not sponsoring me. So yeah, and also this guy, his name's Steven Morales, is really big. He's actually one of the best closers, which is something that you really need to be if you're going to be in real estate. You got to be good at sales. You got to be good at closing, and that's also self-development. I was a lawyer, and I was kind of like used to admin work. And when they told me that I was bad at sales, I was like, okay, then I'm going to be good at sales, right? So self-development for me is that, we have so much information available that if you're not looking for it, it's because you don't want it. So um, that would be my advice on self-development. Find what you want to be an expert in and start researching that. And be mindful of what your content is. For example, like diet. If you're training for something, you're gonna adjust your diet to that. Well, it's kind of the same with the mindset. If you want to be the best, you gotta only listen to the best, and just focus your time on things that can actually add value to you. In my case, that's YouTube, Spotify, and some books. You're muted, I think. I mean, it happens to me all the time.
What advice would you give to an entrepreneur that, because many times businesses will die out within the first 2 to 3 years? What is some advice that you would give to an entrepreneur, somebody that's opening a business within that first 2 to 3 years? Encouragement. What encouragement would you give them?
Well, I think that you need to find something that you love doing, that you're good at doing, and find a way to monetize that. Because when starting a business, it's not the same as going into a 9 to 5 and just clocking out. You will need to pull some all-nighters. You will have a bunch of situations, challenges that you need to face. And if you don't love what you're doing, you're gonna be miserable. You're not gonna, you're gonna quit on it. And obviously try to look for something that's smart that you can actually monetize, do your research. But definitely if you gotta, go into entrepreneurship, you cannot be afraid of failure. You cannot, because you will fail. You will fail. And that's just part of the risk. I mean, people, they'd be like, hey, yeah, the guy from Nicaragua, I wasn't, when I was in Nicaragua, I wasn't in one of the richest places in Nicaragua. It was kind of like a, low mid class, something like that, a little bit lower than mid or whatever. So, and then, they see me flying private jets in, Florida or whatever, or, booking cruises in California and going to island retreats and whatever. That's what you see. And yeah, man, this guy's doing it, and it looks amazing. It looks like, oh, that guy from Nicaragua could do it. Now he's over there and whatever. Now he's in Texas teaching real estate to other companies. But it takes a lot of work. I usually work 60 to 70 hours per week. I pull some all-nighters. Many times I had to put money out of my pocket, a lot of sleepless nights. So it's a lot of sacrifice, man. So if you're going to go into entrepreneurship, you really need to enjoy the process. So that's definitely find something that you love. Be comfortable with failure, because you will fail. And you don't mean and you don't need to, I don't know, quit. If you really love what you're doing, if you really believe in your idea, don't let anybody tell you otherwise, man. You will fail, and that's okay. That's really okay. Just, I don't know, man. Get up, lick your wounds, and keep going at it. Right, like right now, we had an amazing first quarter, and this second quarter, we just hit a recession, right? So, it's a recession. We lost around 11 deals, which they were like $15,000 per deal. So yeah, that was a pretty good sum. But hey, you know what? We're still here, man. We're still standing, and we're definitely pushing forward, charging forward. So just have that mindset, man. Like, don't.
You know what I was thinking? Is while you were talking about how, with the recession coming in, I think challenges are made for us to really look at our business plan and really pivot. And so it's like, welcome the challenge of the inflation, the challenge of the values of homes going up, the challenge of the interest rates going up, because it gives you an opportunity to look at it in a different way of how you can still make money. You just got to work at it a different way, come in, pivot, and really, like you said, lick your wounds and let's go.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's only a handful of businesses that have stayed exactly the same throughout the years. And those who don't, they tend to die. I think that business, you need to You need to be constantly reevaluating yourself, and you need to constantly be reevaluating your business. So, for example, right now, yeah, we did amazing in 2021, first quarter of 2022, we did amazing. Then right now, we just hit a recession. Nobody was expecting it, or at least some people were. Okay, so what strategies are we going to take, right? So you need to be able to adjust. So, as an entrepreneur, you need to be flexible, you need to be versatile, you need to be, quick on your feet, think, don't be afraid to change, because you will need to adapt yourself. You will need to change your business. And I can't tell you, man, how many times I have actually changed the brand of my business. I was actually working for other investors while trying to build my investment company on the side, and I have changed brands, emails, and whatever a bunch of times, because you need to adapt. Either you adapt or you die, and so is your business. Take a look at big businesses; they are adapting. So you got businesses like McDonald's, Carl's Jr. They're now selling veggie burgers, and I was like, at least personally, veggie burger that's just a salad, between buns. But they are doing it because they are adjusting to the market, to the changes in the market. And that's what you need to be willing to do. Don't be hard headed. If the market is asking you to change something in your business, sit down, reevaluate, and do it. I would recommend any entrepreneur to have weekly meetings and overviews, even if it's by yourself. Every Monday, sit down, plan your goals for the week, and then the next Monday, review those goals. Which ones did you hit? Which ones you didn't hit? Why you didn't hit them? And then plan the next goals. That accountability is something that's going to help you a lot in business. And that's going to help you adjust in time. Having those weekly meetings, even if it's with yourself at the beginning, no problem.
Well, Carlos, I just want to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk with you today, and to really just, you have gone through so many challenges that you have come through, and you are where you are for a reason. There's a purpose, and you're fulfilling it every single day. It's success comes on the other side of hard work. And so thank you so much for joining us today on the Break Thru podcast. I really enjoyed speaking with you, and I know you added so much value to those that are going to be listening and those that are watching.
Hey man, I truly appreciate you for having me here. It's truly an honor, and I'm definitely blessed. And guys, everybody can do it. I'm not special. I'm no Superman. Anybody can do it. You just gotta need, you just gotta have the will, right? You need to want it. And you need to want it bad enough so that every time you get hit, you get back up and you keep going at it, man. So I mean, you can see live hit me once and twice and thrice, and it keeps hitting me. And yeah, I mean, you're gonna knock me back, you're gonna knock me down, no problem. But I sure as hell I'm gonna get back up for sure. That's the thing about me, man. I'm never out of the fight. I never quit. That's just not in my mindset, man. So that would be, my small piece of advice, my 2 cents to everybody. Just don't give up, man. You're never out of the fight. Don't quit. Keep going at it. And I appreciate you, man, for having me here in this podcast. It's been an honor, man. Thank you.
From all of us here at the Break Thru podcast, and those that are watching and listening, I just want to thank you, Carlos. And you can catch Carlos here on our, I think we're on 19 or 22 different platforms. We'll be uploading this to our podcast and getting this out. And so thank you so much, Carlos. Have a wonderful evening. We'll talk to you soon.